Texas Governor Greg Abbott had a tough time defending his anti-abortion law in the state of Texas, which of course makes no exceptions for victims of rape or incest. So conservative Fox News anchor Chris Wallace decided to ask him some pretty specific questions, and I personally enjoyed watching him fumble and bumble. Let's watch.
Is it reasonable to say to somebody who is the victim of rape and might not understand that they are pregnant, until 6 weeks, well, don't worry about it because we're going to eliminate rape as a problem in the state of Texas?
Well, there's multiple things I have to say in answer to this, but the first thing, obviously, is that survivors of sexual assault, they deserve support, care, and compassion. And Texas is stepping up to make sure that we provide that by signing a law and creating in the governor's office a sexual assault survivors task force. But separately from that, Chris, I got to point out about the ways that I have fought to go to arrest and apprehend and try to eliminate rape. I sought the death penalty.
Governor, excuse me, because we are running out of time. There were more than 15,000 rapes in 2019 when you were governor.
Oh, Cenk, I didn't know. I didn't know this is really gonna make women who were impregnated by their rapists feel a lot better. Didn't you know the governor's office now has a sexual assault survivors task force?
Oh, task force.
Task force.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That makes everything so much better.
Is it the same task force as the one that about their energy grid? You know, the one that completely fell apart?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
the nonsense that actually does nothing to benefit anyone's lives or improve the conditions that people are complaining about. No, look, anytime a politician, and I'm talking about politicians across the board, right? We're talking about Democrats, Republicans, progressives, as soon as they say, I am calling on a commission or I am forming a task force, that's their way, I'm decoding it for you right now, of saying, I'm not doing jack for you. I'm doing nothing for you. This is my prepared talking point to give you the illusion of me doing something that's substantive. But in reality, what is a sexual assault task force gonna do to, I don't know, a teenager who just got raped by a family member and is pregnant as a result, but can't get an abortion in the state of Texas because it's been outlawed? What is the task force gonna do? Oh, we're gonna provide support for these women. In what way? What is your task force gonna do? This is a personal decision that a woman gets to make. But remember, Greg Abbott is worried about people on the far right challenging him in the primary in the gubernatorial race, and he's terrified about that. So he's got to double down on the most heinous, disgusting, brutal policy that just got implemented in his state. That's what this is about. It's about political brownie points and securing his political future. That's it. He doesn't care about rape victims. They had test kits that were just sitting on shelves collecting dust in the state of Texas, and he's pretending like he's a warrior to root out rape in the state of Texas. Get out of here. Absolute garbage.
So, guys, it's not theoretical. It's a real bill. And the abortion providers largely in Texas have been abiding by it because they don't want to get sued into bankruptcy, because then it doesn't help anybody if they don't even exist anymore. And that's the point of this bill, is to shred your rights by bankrupting anyone that might help you to do an abortion. By the way, 6 weeks or otherwise, because if you're bankrupt, you can't do any abortions, even if it's in the first 2 weeks. And I don't know how you would magically know in 2 weeks.
You wouldn't.
There's like no way you would know. But anyway. So my point in saying that it's not theoretical is, no, in the state of Texas, if you're raped, they will force you to carry your rapist child and raise it. I mean, you could, I guess, give it up for adoption, but you're definitely gonna have to carry it. You're definitely have to give it birth, and then you're gonna have to make an active decision to put it up for adoption or raise it your whole life. If that's not government tyranny, I don't know what is. So apparently saying, hey, can you put on a mask so you don't spread a contagious disease to someone is government tyranny. But saying you must carry your rapist child inside your body for 9 months is not government tyranny. Who could possibly believe that? And so the reality is then you realize right wing doesn't care about government tyranny at all. And what's their answer for this heinous government, big government overreach? They said that's okay, because if you were raped, we have a government task force that is gonna solve it. Which part of this was small government?
No, I mean, small government only applies to big business. It only applies to regulating corporations, right? They don't want to regulate corporations, which is, abundantly clear in states like Texas with its privatized, deregulated energy grid, which has cost hundreds of Texans their lives. So Mr. Pro-life allegedly doesn't really care about lives at all. He doesn't care about lives when it comes to COVID because his lack of leadership in responding to the pandemic has led to Texans dying. His lack of leadership in doing anything to fundamentally change the disgusting, corrupt, privatized energy grid in the state of Texas, nothing. I mean, none of that stuff matters. He's not pro-life. Not a single Republican lawmaker in the state is actually pro-life, okay? It's all about winning brownie points with their conservative base, and that's it. One more clip from this interview.
A new measure that would restore the exception to the Texas abortion law for victims of rape and incest. If that came to your desk, will you sign it or not?
Well, we got to go back, Chris, to what the reason was why the law was passed in the first place. And the goal is to protect the lives of every child with a heartbeat. And so we're working to achieve that goal. Chris, I got to point this out,
including
Chris,
the child of a rape.
This goal is consistent with what the United States Supreme Court has written, and that is states have the ability to make sure that we protect the health and safety of both the mother and the child, and that's what we are seeking to do here.
But are you saying that you will not sign an exception for rape and incest?
Well, first I got to tell you, Chris, you're making a hypothetical that it's not going to happen because that bill is not going to reach my desk. But second, again, the goal is to protect the life of every child with a heartbeat.
I don't need to worry about it because that bill isn't going to reach my desk. That's why I haven't even thought about how I would answer this question, right? So he's struggling to answer that question because admitting that he would vote against it, that he would veto it if it did reach his desk, would mean admitting that he's an insanely cruel, awful person. And he's going back to the 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling and completely implementing revisionist history. He claims that the Supreme Court ruled that as long as there's a heartbeat, then abortion should be outlawed. That is not what the Supreme Court decided. Okay, in fact, during the first trimester, governments could not prohibit abortions at all. That's what the Supreme Court had decided. It isn't until you get to viability, meaning it's a fetus that actually could survive outside the womb, where the regulations and restrictions can be implemented. So he either lied or is stupid and ignorant, doesn't really know what the Supreme Court ruling really entailed.
No, he's not stupid in this case. He's definitely lying on purpose. Okay, so quick question for you. Why aren't you proud of your legislation? I mean, I know Republicans are proud of a lot of things, right? And so if you challenge them on closing down the border, they'd be like, oh, goddamn right, man. You know, we got to close down the border. Those immigrants are the worst. And they're bringing COVID in here. I'm really worried about COVID. But they will be very forceful, right? So your law says if someone is raped or has suffered incest, that they should be forced to carry their rapist child. Why don't you just defend it? That's your law, and you passed it. So are you embarrassed of it? If you're embarrassed of it, why are you embarrassed? Because it's really terrible, isn't it? It's deeply immoral, and you know it, and you know people will viscerally hate it. And so now you go, oh, well, I mean, it's not gonna reach my desk anyway. I mean, that's not how Republicans normally act. Normally they're like, goddamn right? In this case, he's like, because he knows how awful they are. He knows how immoral they are. So, and he said, why isn't it gonna reach his desk? Because other Republicans in Texas will never pass a law to protect women. That's why it'll never reach the governor's desk, because it would have to go through the deeply Republican state legislature where they're just as evil, if not more evil, than Greg Abbott. So that's why he says, no, my colleagues will protect me because they're just barbaric and they hate women just as much as I do. Oh, okay, well that does explain it. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.